It's not the question. The question is, how much does it give? How much does it give you, as opposed to take out of you?
Yes.
What you give to it, what it gives to you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, and it takes a lot.
Yeah.
What happens when the most humble man in Hollywood finally decides to speak? A deeply emotional moment has now gone viral, showing Keanu Reeves speaking with unusual intensity about what fame and pressure in Hollywood can really do to someone like Joaquin Phoenix. Join us as we look behind the scenes and try to understand what these stars may go through just to put on a show for us.
You look now very muscular. You were so skinny in the movie and really looked like sickly. How much weight did you lose for that?
Oh, I don't know.
A lot, though, right?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
And is that as terrible as I would imagine it to be, having a finite amount of time and people counting on you to lose weight for a movie?
It is difficult at times.
Uh-huh.
But then there's something very empowering about it as well.
Is there?
Yeah.
When people watched Joker in 2019, many saw a powerful performance, but a lot of what made it so real didn't just come from talent. It came from pain, pressure, and a level of commitment that pushed Joaquin Phoenix to his limits. To become Arthur Fleck, Phoenix didn't just act like a struggling man. He tried to feel like one. He lost about 52 pounds in just a few months. That's a huge drop in a very short time. His daily meals became extremely small, sometimes just lettuce, apples, and simple vegetables. Doctors carefully controlled everything, but even then, it took a serious toll. At first, the goal was simple: look thin, look fragile, but something unexpected happened. He became obsessed. He talked about waking up every day thinking about tiny changes in his weight. Even a fraction of a pound could affect his mood. It stopped being just a physical change and started affecting his mind. He later admitted it felt like developing a kind of unhealthy fixation. Even though he expected to feel weak all the time, he discovered his body could move in new ways. He felt lighter, more flexible, almost like he had unlocked a different version of himself. That physical change became a big part of how Arthur moved. Those slow dances, those awkward gestures, that eerie presence. But it came at a cost. Losing that much weight didn't just change his body. It changed how he felt inside.
In retrospect, now that we've been in the industry a while, I can't for the life of me understand why it took them so long. And how, other than everyone was very young who made the film, director was in his 20s, writer was in his 20s, we were in our early 20s.
Phoenix openly said that dropping weight so quickly made him feel like he was going mad. His thoughts became sharper, but also more fragile. His emotions became easier to trigger, and instead of fighting that feeling, he leaned into it. He wanted to understand Arthur Fleck from the inside out, not just how he looked, but how he felt. That meant stepping into loneliness, confusion, and emotional pain on purpose. During filming, Phoenix kept his circle very small. He didn't hang out much with others on set. He mostly spoke with director Todd Phillips and focused almost entirely on the role. Why? Because Arthur Fleck is deeply alone. He lives in his own world, disconnected from others. Phoenix wanted that feeling to be real, not something he had to fake. So instead of going home and relaxing like most actors, he stayed mentally close to the character. That kind of isolation can be powerful for a performance, but it can also be risky. When you spend too much time alone with heavy thoughts, it can start to affect how you see everything. One of the most disturbing parts of the film is the Joker's laugh. It doesn't sound joyful, it sounds painful. That wasn't an accident.
And he described the laughter as something that's almost painful. And so ultimately, I think that it is Joker. It's a part of him that's trying to emerge, right? And I thought that was a really interesting way of looking at this laugh, because I think we all kind of assume what a Joker laugh is, and it felt like it was a new, fresh way of looking at it.
Phoenix studied real medical conditions where people laugh uncontrollably, even when they don't want to. He watched videos, listened closely, and tried to understand what that experience might feel like. Instead of making the laugh entertaining, he made it uncomfortable. He described it as something that feels like it's forcing its way out of the body, almost like a struggle. That's why, when you watch those scenes, it feels tense rather than funny. It's not just acting. It feels like something deeper, and that's exactly what he was aiming for. Even with all that preparation, things weren't easy. Phoenix didn't just show up and perform. Every day was a challenge. He would arrive hours early, trying to find the right emotional tone for each scene. Sometimes it worked. Sometimes it didn't. There were days filled with frustration, moments where he couldn't quite connect the way he wanted to. But instead of backing off, he kept pushing. He didn't want the character to feel predictable. In fact, he avoided making Arthur easy to understand. He didn't want viewers, or even experts, to fully figure him out. That mystery is part of what made the performance so powerful, but it also cost him.
How do you prepare for a scene like that? Do you get a coach and work with the coach? Do you get in front of a mirror and do that, or how do you do it?
No, I think it's the opposite, because for something like that, particularly this character, you really don't want to be conscious of yourself. He's not really conscious of himself. It's almost like a train of thought that's kind of going off. So looking in a mirror or having anybody judge me or work with me wouldn't be right. So it's basically just allowing those barriers that I have for myself to break, to let them down, and to just be as raw as possible and let the emotions and the fear and the regret and the pain of this character really come through.
This kind of deep immersion is often called method acting. It's when actors don't just play a role, they live it. And while it can lead to incredible performances, it can also come with serious downsides. Actors who go this far sometimes struggle to separate themselves from the character. Emotions don't just switch off when filming ends. The sadness, anger, or confusion can stick around. In some cases, it can affect relationships. Friends and family may notice changes. The actor might seem distant or different. There's also the physical side. Extreme diets, long hours, and emotional stress, it all add up. Some actors end up completely exhausted, both mentally and physically. Phoenix's experience is a clear example of how far someone can go for a role and what it can take out of them. At the end of it all, the performance was widely praised. It didn't feel like a typical comic book character. It felt real, raw, and uncomfortable in a way that stuck with people. That dedication earned Phoenix one of the biggest honors in film, the Academy Award for Best Actor. But awards don't tell the whole story. Behind that success was a process that pushed him to extreme places, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And even he has admitted that it's not something he would want to repeat again and again. For the sequel, he hinted that going through such a transformation at his age was much harder, and likely the last time he would do something that intense. What happened during Joker isn't just about one actor. It says something about the film industry as a whole. There's often pressure to go further, dig deeper, suffer more for the sake of great art. And while that can create unforgettable performances, it also raises questions. How far is too far? Is it worth risking your health for a role? Many experts now encourage actors to find safer ways to connect with characters, using imagination, technique, and controlled emotion instead of pushing themselves into harmful states. Because at the end of the day, no role should cost someone their well-being. That's why Keanu Reeves has spoken about it. But why speak up at all when so many people believe it's just the price you have to pay?
He never changed. Always humble.
His kindness and gratefulness and everything is it's true, it's real.
He's the sweetest guy.
The guy is an absolute stud.
He's as cool as a Hawaiian breeze.
He's cool as a Canadian cold winter storm, baby.
If you really look at Hollywood, it's easy to see why someone like Keanu Reeves stands out so much. In an industry where ego, attention, and image often take center stage, Keanu has built a reputation that feels almost rare. Not because he's loud about it, but because he isn't. His journey isn't about chasing the spotlight. It's about staying grounded in a world that constantly tries to pull people away from that. And when you understand who he is, it starts to make sense why he would quietly stand by someone like Joaquin Phoenix, especially after everything Phoenix went through to become the Joker. Keanu Reeves could easily live like a typical Hollywood celebrity. Big mansions, flashy lifestyle, constant attention. But that's never really been his style. He's been spotted riding the subway like everyone else, sitting quietly, giving up his seat, blending in. There are stories of him standing in the rain, waiting outside his own party because he didn't want to make a scene. Moments like that aren't staged. They're just who he is. People who've worked with him often say the same thing. He treats everyone the same. It doesn't matter if you're a lead actor or someone working behind the scenes. To him, respect isn't something you earn through status. It's something everyone deserves.
And that's where I ended up getting a chance to play Mercutio in Romeo and Juliet. And that's where I got an agent. You know, another actor had an agent and they had come to see the play, and then this person who was actually an acting model agency.
Behind that calm personality is someone who takes his craft very seriously. For action films, Keanu trains for months, sometimes longer than expected, just to make sure everything looks real. Whether it's fight scenes, stunts, or weapons training, he puts in the time quietly, without making a big show out of it. He's not chasing praise. He's focused on doing the job right. That kind of discipline has earned him deep respect, not just from fans, but from people inside the industry who know how much effort that really takes. One of the things that really sets Keanu apart is how he gives. There are well-known stories about him giving away a large part of his earnings from the Matrix films so that costume designers and special effects teams could be paid better. He's also been known to buy gifts for stunt crews like motorcycles just to say thank you. He quietly donates to hospitals and charities. No big announcements, no press releases, just support where it's needed. That kind of generosity feels different. It's not about being seen as kind. It's about actually being kind.
There's this sort of mythology that surrounds you, that you're sad.
On a sad Keanu day.
Keanu's calm and quiet nature didn't come out of nowhere. It was shaped by real loss. In 1999, he and his partner, Jennifer Syme, went through the heartbreak of losing their child before birth. Not long after, in 2001, Jennifer died in a car accident. He also stood by his sister, Kim Reeves, during her long fight with leukemia. And earlier in his life, he lost a close friend, River Phoenix. Instead of turning bitter or distant, Keanu seemed to become more compassionate, more understanding, more aware of how fragile life really is. If you ask people who've worked with Keanu, you'll hear stories that sound almost too simple, but that's what makes them powerful. He remembers names, not just the main cast, but crew members too. He asks about people's lives, their families, their stories. There are moments where he's helped carry equipment or stayed behind just to talk with the crew, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. There's no diva behavior, no sense of, I'm above this. And in an industry where that kind of attitude is common, his approach feels almost refreshing.
That guy sits on the subway by himself. No, like,
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but there's no obvious outward displays of wealth from him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's insanely wealthy.
Yeah,
but when you see him, he's dressed like me.
Yeah.
He's got like a regular watch on and sneakers.
While many celebrities build their image around luxury, Keanu seems comfortable living a much simpler life. He rides motorcycles. He walks around cities without a big entourage. He talks to strangers. He doesn't hide behind layers of distance. It's not that he rejects success. It's that success never changed how he sees himself or others. Now, when you look at everything Joaquin Phoenix went through while preparing for Joker, it becomes easier to understand why Keanu would stand by him. Phoenix didn't take the easy path. He pushed his body to extreme limits. He isolated himself. He went into a very dark mental space just to understand the character he was playing. That kind of commitment isn't always visible on the surface, but actors who take their craft seriously can recognize it immediately. And Keanu is one of those people. He understands discipline. He understands sacrifice. And more importantly, he understands pain. So when someone like Phoenix pours everything into a role, even at a cost, Keanu isn't likely to judge him. He's more likely to respect the effort and understand the weight behind it. In a world where people are quick to criticize or misunderstand intense performances, having someone like Keanu in your corner matters. He doesn't just look at the final result. He looks at the journey it took to get there. And because of the life he's lived, the loss, the resilience, the humility, he tends to see people with a little more depth. That's probably why he connects with actors who go beyond the surface. People who are willing to be vulnerable, even when it's uncomfortable. Keanu Reeves doesn't need to make loud statements to influence people. The way he lives, the way he treats others, the way he carries his experiences, it all speaks for itself.
No, like,
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but there's no obvious outward displays of wealth from him.
Keanu Reeves rarely speaks in detail about Joaquin Phoenix's most intense roles, yet still seems deeply respectful when he does. To understand that, you have to look beyond headlines and focus on something more personal, because this isn't just about two famous actors. It's about history, shared experiences, and a quiet respect that goes back decades. Keanu Reeves has always been known for being private, calm, and careful with his words. He doesn't jump into Hollywood debates. He doesn't chase drama. So when he does speak about other actors, especially someone like Joaquin Phoenix, it usually comes from something deeper than just professional opinion. And in this case, that deeper thing is the Phoenix family. Long before Joaquin Phoenix became widely known for roles like Joker, he was part of a very talented acting family. And the person who first connected Keanu Reeves to that family wasn't Joaquin, it was his older brother, River Phoenix.
So, River, last time you were here, you said you were going to take a year off. That turned into how long?
About 3.5. I got lost in the woods, literally and figuratively.
Well, you're back and you look sturdy. You found the trail?
Yeah, and a good pair of boots.
River Phoenix was one of the most promising young actors of his generation. He had this natural, emotional style of acting that felt real and unforced. People who worked with him often said he didn't just act a role, he lived inside it. And Keanu Reeves was one of those people who saw that up close. They worked together in the early 1990s on the film My Own Private Idaho. That movie became a turning point for both of them in different ways. It was emotional, raw, and very different from typical Hollywood films at the time. During that period, Keanu saw something in River Phoenix that stayed with him forever. He didn't just see a co-star. He saw someone with rare emotional depth, someone who approached acting like a form of truth-telling rather than performance. Keanu later described River in very simple but powerful terms. He called him the best and spoke about him as a heavy actor. By heavy, he didn't mean difficult. He meant serious in the emotional sense. someone who brings weight, honesty, and real feeling into every scene. That kind of impression doesn't fade easily, especially when it comes from early in someone's career, when everything still feels new and formative. So when River Phoenix tragically passed away in 1993, it left a deep mark on Hollywood, and especially on the people who worked closely with him. For Keanu, it wasn't just the loss of a talented actor, it was the loss of someone he genuinely respected on a human level. That connection is important when you look at how Keanu speaks about Joaquin Phoenix today. Because Joaquin didn't just come out of nowhere. He grew up in the same family, surrounded by the same creative energy. After River's passing, Joaquin's career slowly grew, and over time, he built his own identity as one of the most intense and committed actors working today. But Keanu's perspective on Joaquin is not based on comparisons or competition. It is shaped by memory. He already knew the Phoenix family through River, so when Joaquin started gaining recognition for his own roles, especially emotionally heavy performances like Joker, Keanu's response wasn't loud or dramatic. It was more grounded than that. He didn't frame it as, "This actor is better than that one," or "This performance is more intense." Instead, his attitude has always leaned toward quiet respect for the craft itself. And that makes sense when you understand Keanu's own acting style.
The Matrix changed my life, and then over these years, it's changed so many other people's lives in really positive and great ways. And so
Keanu Reeves is not known for explosive emotional performances. His strength lies in something more restrained. People often describe him as stoic or controlled on screen. Think about roles like Neo in The Matrix or John Wick. Even in moments of chaos, his character usually stays calm, focused, and almost minimal in expression. So when Keanu looks at actors like Joaquin Phoenix, who fully immerse themselves in emotional transformation, he is seeing a completely different approach to the same art form. One is controlled and quiet. The other is intense and psychologically deep. But neither is right nor wrong. They are just different paths. And Keanu seems to understand that better than most. There is also something interesting about how the industry sometimes tries to compare these styles in ways that don't always fit. When Joker was released, some discussions online and in media circles started comparing its violence and emotional intensity to action films like John Wick. Director Todd Phillips even made comparisons at one point between the tone of Joker and the kind of violence seen in John Wick. But many fans and critics felt that comparison didn't really make sense, because the two films come from completely different worlds. Joker is psychological. It is slow, internal, and focused on a character breaking down emotionally over time. John Wick, on the other hand, is action-driven, stylized, and built around choreography and movement rather than psychological collapse. So even though both films contain violence and intensity, they are not trying to say the same thing. And Keanu Reeves, being the face of John Wick, has never tried to place his work in competition with performances like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, making his perspective so interesting. And when he reflects on actors like Joaquin Phoenix, it is less about analysis and more about recognition of dedication. Because one thing is clear about Joaquin Phoenix: he commits fully. Whether it is physical transformation, emotional depth, or psychological immersion, he is known for pushing himself completely into a role himself. That level of intensity is something many actors respect, even if they don't work that way themselves.
Phenomenal amount of energy and giving of your mind and heart, and I think he was probably in a place. He's quite tired.
Keanu's admiration for the Phoenix family, especially River Phoenix, adds another layer to that respect. It's not just about Joaquin as an individual actor. It is also about understanding where that talent comes from and the legacy behind it. When someone has seen a performer like River Phoenix up close, it changes how they view the next generation of actors from that same family. There is a sense of continuity, almost like watching different chapters of the same story unfold. So when Keanu Reeves speaks about Joaquin Phoenix, even briefly, it carries weight. Not because he is analyzing every performance in detail, but because his perspective is shaped by history, loss, admiration, and long-standing respect for a family that has had a deep impact on cinema. But Joaquin Phoenix isn't the only one in Hollywood who has gone through intense or demanding experiences like that. At its best, method acting has given us some of the most powerful performances in film history. Moments that feel so real, you forget you're watching a movie. But behind that level of realism, there is another side that is rarely talked about. A side filled with emotional strain, physical exhaustion, and sometimes regret. Because when you push the mind and body too far into a role, it can become hard to switch back. Some actors have described feeling lost after filming ends, almost like they don't fully return to themselves right away. Others talk about anxiety, depression, or burnout after long productions. When you spend months thinking and living like someone else, the line between character and reality can start to blur. Some other performers have undergone extreme weight changes or put their bodies through uncomfortable conditions to match a role. While this can add realism, it can also take a toll on long-term health.
You know, method acting has suddenly got a bad rap and seems to be like a pretty easy target, mostly for people that really know very little about it. But, you know, it's a way of working like any other way of working. If it interferes with the other people's work, you've gone wrong.
Even co-stars sometimes feel the impact. When one actor stays fully in character at all times, it can affect the working environment on set, making it tense or emotionally draining for everyone involved. Not every actor agrees on how far is too far. Some believe full immersion is necessary for truth on screen. Others feel there should be a clearer line between performance and personal life. For Joaquin Phoenix, Joker wasn't the first time he went deep into method acting. He's known for fully committing to his roles, often changing how he looks, moves, and even thinks so he can completely become the character. One of the most unusual examples came during the 2010 project I'm Still Here, where he staged a fake retirement from acting and appeared in public as part of a long-running performance. The goal was to blur reality and fiction so completely that the audience couldn't tell what was real anymore. But after it was over, Phoenix admitted the experience was extremely uncomfortable. He later said it was one of the worst times in his life and that he would never go through it again. It left him feeling emotionally drained, like the usual boundaries he depends on were completely gone. Still, he went through it again, whether it was pressure from the director or his own drive to deliver his best performance. Even in other films like The Master, he pushed his body and mind very far to stay true to the role. While it brought him praise, it also showed just how intense his preparation process can get.
I wouldn't have taken it because to try and even to touch what Jack Nicholson did in Tim Burton's world would be a crime, and so.
Even Heath Ledger, whose role as the Joker in The Dark Knight is still talked about today, also spoke a lot about how demanding method acting can be. Ledger famously isolated himself while preparing for the role. He kept a journal filled with thoughts and ideas connected to the character, trying to understand the Joker's chaotic mindset from the inside out. During filming, he also struggled with sleep, reportedly getting only a few hours of rest at night. His performance became legendary, earning him widespread recognition. But it also sparked ongoing conversations about how mentally demanding such deep immersion can be. While people close to him have said the role was not the only factor in his life, it is widely acknowledged that the process was emotionally and physically intense. Another name that is often brought up in this conversation is Jared Leto.
I think this is someone you don't want to fuck with. That's probably what I think.
Leto is known for taking method acting to extremes that sometimes cross into controversy. During Suicide Squad, reports suggested he stayed in character as the Joker even when cameras were off, and sent unusual gifts to cast members as part of maintaining the role's unpredictability. Some co-stars found it disruptive and uncomfortable, arguing that it created tension on set rather than improving the performance. In another role, he underwent a major physical transformation, gaining significant weight for Chapter 27, which led to real health issues afterward. Whether people admire or criticize his approach, it shows how far method acting can go when taken to extremes. When you look at all these examples together, a pattern starts to appear. The technique itself is not the issue. It's the intensity of how far some actors go with it. For some, method acting is just preparation, a tool used carefully and temporarily. For others, it becomes a full mental and physical commitment that doesn't always switch off easily when filming ends. That's where the dark side comes in. It's not always dramatic or visible. Sometimes it's quiet exhaustion after a long shoot. Sometimes it's emotional confusion after stepping out of a character. And sometimes it's the challenge of reconnecting with normal life after living as someone else for months. There is also a growing conversation in Hollywood about balance. More actors and filmmakers are starting to question whether extreme immersion is always necessary. Some believe great performances can come from understanding a character deeply without fully disappearing into them. Others still defend method acting as the most authentic path to truth on screen. So the debate continues. When acting becomes too real, it stops being just a performance. It starts becoming an experience that affects the person behind the character long after the cameras stop rolling. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.